My dear readers, to encounter an actor who ascends credibly to the mantle of statesman is rare. Rarer still to find one echoing the gravitas of a Churchill. Yet in Volodymyr Zelenskyy, a comedian turned president, we find such an alchemist. He has, without the expected fanfare or Hollywood polish that once ushered a certain Western leader from screen to Oval Office, refined raw political novice into the substance of a leader for the annals. A wartime icon cast not in celluloid, but in iron resolve. When the armored behemoth of Russian imperialism lumbered into Ukraine with the insouciance of an intoxicated oligarch, the world braced for an all-too-familiar tragedy, the swift crushing of a burgeoning democracy by the iron fist of autocracy. Yet what we beheld was not a capitulation, but the emergence of a leader forged in the crucible of adversity. Zelenskyy, with a resilience that belied his artful past, stood defiantly in the winds of aggression, embodying the unyielding spirit of his nation. It was a veritable transfiguration, from a figure of entertainment to the embodiment of Ukraine's steely resolve. Let us not mince words. The Churchillian comparison is one that begs skepticism. Churchill, after all, was a man whose rhetoric was as intoxicating as the Pol Roger he famously imbibed, a figure who marshalled the English language and sent it into battle as surely as he did the RAF during Britain's darkest hour. And yet there is a thread that binds these disparate figures across the span of time, a thread woven of defiance, eloquence, and an indomitable will to champion the cause of freedom against the spectre of tyranny. Zelenskyy, addressing his nation and the world from the very crucible of conflict, does not lean on the crutch of a scriptwriter's pen, but speaks with the unvarnished candor of a man who knows the cost of freedom is etched in the blood of his people. In his unyielding stand there echoes the growl of Churchill's oratory, the "we shall fight on the beaches" spirit that rallies a nation against overwhelming odds. One can almost hear the ghost of Churchill in the timbre of Zelenskyy's exhortations, in his refusal to be cowed by the Russian Leviathan, in his impassioned pleas for support from a world that often seems content to view distant wars as little more than the evening news. His beseech to the chambers of power, to the parliaments and congresses of the West, resonates with the unwavering tenor of a man who would rather see his country in ruins than in chains. This is not the stuff of mere political expediency, the cheap coinage of the populist's realm, but the rare currency of true leadership. Zelenskyy's transition from entertainer to commander-in-chief, from the man who played a president on television to the leader who would not abandon his post even as missiles rained upon his city, is a story to be etched in the annals of history alongside those of the greatest statesmen. Yet let us not succumb to the seductive allure of myth-making. Zelenskyy is no Churchill reborn. He is a man of his own time, facing a menace uniquely his own. He does not command an empire upon which the sun never sets, but stands sentinel over a nation struggling to maintain its rightful place in the community of nations. His is a struggle not just for territory, but for the very notion that a people should be free to determine their own destiny, free from the yoke of a belligerent neighbor who regards the post-Soviet landscape as a chessboard for its revanchist ambitions. In Zelenskyy's unyielding resistance, there is a lesson for those of us who hold liberty dear. It is a lesson that echoes Churchill's own dictum that democracy is the worst form of government, except for all the others. It is a clarion call to defend not just the sovereignty of a single nation, but the collective sovereignty of all nations who believe that borders should be respected, that international law is not a buffet from which large powers may pick and choose at their leisure. In the sacred pantheon where history enshrines its chosen few, alongside the monumental icons, Caesar and Churchill, Gandhi and Mandela, there now steps Volodymyr Zelenskyy. In a world starved for heroes, he emerges as the very embodiment of valor and the human quest for dignity. With a conviction as unyielding as the iron from his nation's soil, he stands not just with, but above the great leaders of yore, for he has not merely navigated the ship of state through stormy waters, but has held it steady while the tempest raged, and the very sea sought to engulf it. In the firmament of greatness, Zelenskyy's star burns with a brilliance that casts a guiding light for this era and for posterity, marking him unequivocally as one of the noblest leaders to grace the tides of time.